my really good friends, Laura, and Laura is also friends with Lori. So I'm going to do my best today to pronounce names correctly. And I think we're going to have a lot of fun because we're all friends. We're going to be a little bit of goofing off, but we're going to get down to business. And we're also going to be talking about specialty. That's going to be the focus. We want you to ask questions. So if you're watching live or even if it's in the future, write a comment and feel free to ask any questions. There's no dumb questions. And at the end of this, we do have a special invite that we want to give you to our first ever specialty focused pharmacy coaching group to help you transition into specialty. And so with that, I'll do a little bit more of an introduction. Lori is a pharmacist who we worked with, I want to say well over a year ago now. And she was, you know what? I'll speak for yourself. Before working with us, Lori, where were you at in the world of pharmacy?
Yeah, I was about 6.5 to 7 years into a home infusion career. That was my first job out of school, and I stayed there for a long time. Loved many parts of it, but knew it was time for a change.
So when you think about home infusion, do you consider that within the belt of like specialty?
I think it's kind of like specialty's cousin, maybe, but definitely not specialty. A lot of times, if you're not sort of in that universe, people tend to group them together, but there very much is a distinction. But I would say they're friendly cousins.
And that Laura, as an active practicing coach with us, that seems to be a continuous problem with not just specialty, but like almost every niche within our profession is that we don't like hard borders. We don't like calling ourselves, oh, this is cardiology, right? And it's just cardiology. It seems like we like Venn diagram circles for our careers. And there's a lot of
we're
mixing.
obsessed with labels.
we don't mind being called specialty when we're not.
That's
It's
right.
kind of hard. And so when people think about specialty, they typically think, rare disease states.
Absolutely.
Now, Lori, when you were working and you transitioned to this, what kind of drew you to that profession? What specifically kind of made you say like, oh, this is interesting to me?
To home infusion or where I'm at now?
Specialty, sorry.
Well, in general, I love that it's sort of a blend between kind of the traditional retail and a little bit of that hospital. It's got both clinical, but it is somewhat logistics. It's coordinating with your patients, with doctors, nurses, at a little bit of a higher level than I think a usual kind of, again, retail or hospital pharmacist would do. And it kind of keeps you on your toes. It kept me on my toes. There was a lot of, you're still checking labs. There is that clinical portion, but you're talking to patients all day, every day, and then kind of solving their problems further in different ways that you don't usually see in a traditional pharmacy setting.
Yeah, it's kind of like what retail could be if it was clinical.
Yeah, and what I love too is that at least where I was at, I had the time to talk to my patients, which was at first I didn't realize how valuable that was. And then as I kind of heard stories from fellow pharmacists and things like that, that was not super common. And having the ability to really talk to them, how are your medications going? Oh, this schedule isn't working for you. Let's make it work for you. What can we do? And I loved that part of it because you could kind of see the results were almost tangible. You could see your patient be like, oh, that schedule works way better for me. Let's do that. And then, as with patients, if you can have the medication, but if they're not taking it, it's not going to work. So fitting it to their needs was something I really loved.
When I talk with either clients or past clients and I talk about specialty, I remember one pharmacist telling me it's everything I wanted pharmacy to be. It's the mix of working with people, helping them, and having the time to help them. Now, that's not true for every organization, but there's something magical about actually practicing pharmacy and having the time to just exist with your patients, right?
Yeah.
For you, what was that like?
That was, like I said, really rewarding in just the sense that I had the time to really hear what, issues or roadblocks they were having with their medications, whether it was, like I sort of mentioned, the schedule, taking a drug Q8, that's difficult. Even if it's just a pill, that's difficult. If it's infusion, even more difficult. So, kind of grappling with that. And if they were having side effects, if they couldn't get in to see their doctor, didn't know who to reach. They came out of the hospital, they don't know who to follow up with. There was all sorts of ways that I was able to help them in a way that I don't think I would have been able to do in other places, and it was really rewarding to see them, hopefully often enough, also be very thankful for that and be able to
Mm.
get them, say, get them to a better place of health because of it.
If you're in the chat watching this, I want to know what you love about specialty. If you're already practicing or if you're interested in specialty, I'd love to know what is drawing you into this niche. Because
Alex.
honestly, go ahead, Laura.
Oh, yeah. No, I can't wait to jump in. I'm going to double dutch my way in here, which is that everything that Lori's describing and what you're talking about is why I personally made the decision 10 years ago to move from community practice to specialty, which was the one on one time with the patient, the lack of insurance barriers that I had to deal with, and the niche that I could provide by being a clinical specialist in the field I was assigned to, which at the time was pulmonary hypertension. So I was the pulmonary hypertension expert. I had the information. That's exactly what my patients needed. That was a huge draw. I also have to say the specialty schedule, Monday through Friday, with a couple of weekends once in a while, highly desirable.
Mm. Laura, you must have been the most bubbly pharmacist on staff to be talking about all of those awful drugs and disease states.
I'm telling you, I mean, right? All of those drugs for those pharmacists who are watching, vasodilatory drugs with a awful, awful side effects from headache to GI to neuropathies. And I'm telling you, at least the thing was, I finally had the time to talk to them about those side effects in a meaningful way without being rushed at the
Yeah.
out window, which we're really also familiar with.
Yeah. And you have experience in the retail setting. You remember what it was like.
Very well.
Woo! It feels like Burger King. I worked at Burger King and I worked in a few chains, and it felt eerily similar.
Yeah, and it's
Eerily similar.
frustrating how it's, I think, I know it's gotten even worse.
Yeah. I was just yelled at for waiting in a pharmacy line getting a vaccine. Like, I
Oh
was yelled
boy.
at. I was like, "What are you talking about?
I'm
Get
just
out of
waiting
here.
here.
Why are you
Yeah.
yelling at me? Crazy?"
And
Anyways,
I
I
think
love
these
what
are,
Oh,
yeah,
go
well,
ahead.
no, and I think these are the attributes of jobs that community pharmacists are really looking to practice in a setting that is meaningful to them, right? Lori's explaining
Mm,
everything about having time to talk to patients, having time to coordinate logistics with them for the best adherence that they could get. We're just not finding that in community. And I'm excited because with my specialty background, I am any advice that anyone would like to get. And I see a question coming up. Yeah, let's talk about like what specialty has to offer as a practice site.
well, I think Angelica said it best here. Many of the
Mm.
specialty patients have failed other therapies, and the relief they have when a therapy finally works for them is what motivates her. How awesome is it?
Ugh.
My wife has a few disease states, and when we finally discovered the trick, it's like, oh my gosh, years of trying things, failing things. It's so comforting.
Life
It's
changing.
so comforting,
I
and I
will,
love it.
Angelica. Such a great point. Pulmonary hypertension from that 1 hour lecture that you had third year a long time ago, very rare, uncommon disease state. And patients thought they had asthma, COPD, Alex, exactly what you're describing with your spouse, years of trying to figure out what's going on. And they were elated to talk to me and finally have an answer to the question that they had been dealing with for years and years. And that was incredibly rewarding.
Yeah. And as we're getting a lot of these kind of outcomes, like just making a difference in people's lives, right? How cool is that? And something I want to transition into, and I don't want to get too ahead of myself, Lori. Like I want to tell your story when to where you are now, but I'm going to hold back. And I want to share what Lisa said here. I sought specialty because of the future industry growth and quality of life. Um, the industry is booming. And Lori, I'm telling you, don't hold back your story. Don't tell her where you're at now. Okay. When you were in specialty, we're hinting at where we're going here. So just be patient, please. But when you were in it, did you get that feeling or that sensation of like, oh, wow, this is big and things are happening fast?
Definitely. I think the history of like specialty and just at-home care, things like that, was kind of sparked in, I want to say, like the 70s. And since then, I think people have just been recognizing and realizing the value of it, not just monetarily, which is obviously on a lot of people's minds, and payers, hospitals, patients, the savings there can be enormous, but also just like we've been talking about for the patient, figuring out what works for them after years of suffering and trying to find relief and things like that. And so as time goes on, that's only getting more prevalent. With COVID, that was huge. You know, patients need to be treated, and if they can't be going into hospitals or SNFs or short-term nursing facilities or places like that,
Sure.
specialty is the answer. And so it's booming, especially again with our aging population. All signs point to this is a booming industry.
And whenever you see growth in an industry, it means opportunity for us pharmacists. Yay. It's all about medicine. We should be leading the charge here and we should be all about it. I remember when I graduated so many years ago, there was a report about all the new drugs that came out that year. And I remember someone pointing out, hey, 90% of these are specialty drugs. You're never going to see these in community, is what they said. And
Mhm.
the angle was, don't worry about these. Don't study them. Don't think about them. But and I did. I did it. I didn't care because I just wanted to pass the test. But for you, for us, for those of you that are wanting to make more out of your career and are interested in this field, become the expert. It is not difficult. You don't need a residency. You don't need more training. You don't need a certification to get into specialty. Um, I will clarify because a lot of people like send me messages about this. It More education is not a bad thing. I'm not promoting naivete or not pursuing higher ed, but I am promoting that you don't need to spend $30,000 over your lifetime to maintain a certification or going in debt for another degree in order to need that. Laura, I remembered you were in specialty for a very short time. Did you have to do more training before you transitioned?
I did not. And I can't hold back anymore from telling my story. So I'm just going to go for it. So I
You
was
know,
in,
interrupt me. Go for
no,
it.
I mean, always on a regular basis, I will. So I was in community practice for over 5 years here in Chicagoland at a supermarket and actually loving my life at the same store, great staff. I was an MTM specialist, which in 2011 was kind of a niche thing. So, very happy. Went to a pharmacy state conference, Illinois Pharmacists Association, shout out. and met a gentleman at lunch who worked at the specialty pharmacy here in the Chicagoland area. Why don't you come on in and take a tour? And I honestly had never heard of specialty pharmacy at that time, never even heard of it. I graduated in 06, so the specialty model was available. Like Lori said, it's been around for 40 years, but it was definitely this niche part of the profession. So at that time, I had mentors who said never say no. And so when someone offered to take me on a tour, I said yes. I took a day off of work. I went and toured this specialty pharmacy, and it was amazing, right? So a mail order pharmacy, but with a telephonic outreach. It married like two very different dispensing models that I never thought went together. And then there was this whole team that did benefit verification, which meant I didn't have to do anything with insurance. And they were open from 7 to 7, Monday through Friday, right? So for me, quality of life, having a Monday through Friday schedule, no every other weekend, that is what I was
Mm.
really looking for at that time. In that transition, I will tell you, it was um, the networking component is absolutely what got me in the door, right? Saying yes to that gentleman that I happened to meet at a pharmacy conference. I did not do a residency. I had, again, 5.5 years of community experience. And that was it. I did the immunization certificate, of course, and I had done, I think, like a lipid. I'd done the cardiovascular certificate because it was being offered at a discount by IPHA as well. But were the only additional training that I had had since obtaining my PharmD in 06, and this is 2011. So I know that people feel like things are different now, and there are all these other certifications out there. I will tell you, your number one key to get in the door is going to be networking, right? That is what worked for me. I also had a story to tell about everything that we're talking about, is why I wanted to move from community practice into specialty pharmacy. Just what Lori's saying, I wanted more time with the patients. They loved to hear that. They wanted to hear that I wanted to advance patient care, and that's what sealed the deal for me.
Mm. Yeah, I'm seeing more comments along those lines about that time and
Mm-hmm.
the needed time.
Mm-hmm.
So, Lori, going back to you and your story, you're in home infusion, you're feeling like a change, and you started working with us. So, walk us through that process of what it was like working with a coach and how that coach helped you transition.
Yeah. So I did probably a year before I started to work with the Happy Farm D. I was sort of like, I got this. I'm going to do this on my own. Let me try. So I did what I thought was the right thing to do. I get on Indeed, I get on LinkedIn, look for open jobs, get my resume in order, and then start applying. Just boom, 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 have like a pretty generic cover letter, and then, attach it, change the name, dear Mr. Whoever, signed Lori, send it out. Um, Shockingly, not really. I was having no results and was pretty discouraged. And I think a lot of people will say looking for a job is like a full-time job, and it really felt like it with no results. I was not getting any traction. I was
Mm.
not just getting anywhere, and was feeling pretty discouraged. And I was like, maybe I'm fine where I am, and took a break for a little bit just to, you know, sulk, I guess. And then had been hearing about the Happy Farm Bee for a while, and then finally was like, kind of at my wits' end with just work where I was at and everything surrounding it, and decided it was time. Clearly, I couldn't do it on my own. I kind of, would look at websites, do this for your resume, try that. Wasn't really working. And there was no one really keeping me accountable. I'd get tired, long day of work, and be like, go home, time to, apply to jobs. And some days I didn't do it because I was really tired, and that's okay and that's normal, but wasn't getting anywhere basically. So finally signed up, and um, kind of went into it not knowing what to expect. Was hoping I would come out with a new job, of course, but was like, let's see what happens. I was paired with Anne, who was great. Anne, if you're here, hello. And it's really probably a couple weeks in, maybe like 3 weeks in, I think that I realized it's really what you put in that you'll get out of it. And was great because, we went through kind of what am I looking for? I went in having no clue. I was like something different, but that could be a million different things. And in a great way with pharmacy, that could be so many things, which is awesome, which is part of the reason I went into pharmacy in the first place. But I had to kind of narrow that down. I can't just be all over the place. So through that time, I was able to learn a lot of amazing networking skills, which is what we talked about. I never thought I would like networking. I was never a person to be like, oh, networking, like, let's go, let's do this. And um, that changed. And if you asked me about that a week before the day I started the coaching, I would be like, yeah, no, that's not going to happen. And here we are.
Lori, I have to interrupt you because right now, how many networking events, phone calls, LinkedIn, in-person things do you do on a regular basis? Because I can think of 3.
I would say probably like average of like 3 a week.
3 friends.
It's wild.
3.
I would have.
It's wild. Like
that.
No networking to 3 a week. And you like it. That's the thing too that I will brag about is that you're always like, you are never gonna believe who I met. And I'm like, this is so cool.
Yeah. And I just saw, I think someone mentioned
our friend, our friend and fellow Happy Farm D coach, Janan, says, I like rebranding network to building connections.
Yeah, I completely agree because that's how I feel about it now. Now it's not, when I tell my friends like, oh, I talked to someone today at lunch, I did this and that, it doesn't feel like I'm not like networking. It's now I'm like, oh, like Laura said, you'll never guess who I met. You'll never guess what we talked about, all this kind of stuff. So I forgot how this question originally started, but it was I went
networking was the real thing that you got from our program. You feel like that was the secret.
I really think so. And again, going in, I wasn't sure what to expect. I was like, I think a healthy amount of skeptical of like, okay, like, but I invested my money in it and I was like, it's in it to win it, right? It's up to me. My coach isn't going to do the work for me, but she held me accountable when we were meeting. I wasn't about to show up and be like, oh no, sorry, I didn't do this. Not my style. So the first few weeks I was kind of skimming, doing the bare minimum, and then I realized she doesn't care. This is for me. Like I need to do it. I need to want to do it and dig a little deeper if I'm really trying to make the change that I went in wanting. So, did I go in thinking networking would be my new shining star? Absolutely not. But now, over a year later, it's the thing I definitely took most from it.
I think it's interesting that networking comes up quite a bit in these job transition series, and it's definitely a formula for it. But I think it's easy to say that that's the answer when really the magic, from my point of view, is you change your mindset, your perspective, right? The lens through which you saw the world. I don't know if you got new glasses, but we helped you put them on.
I actually did.
Yeah, they look nice. They look good. Because I think this is a lot like trying to lose weight. Everybody knows how to lose weight. Eat less, exercise more. Like, it is not rocket science. And yet it is a multi-billion-dollar industry full of gurus and supplements and things that probably don't work, like the shake weight. I mean, let's all be honest. We all know what that is. It's a giant joke on Americans. And yet we pay people. We pay people year to help us solve us with a very simple problem. One that could be solved by just doing 2 things: eating less, exercising more. And yet it happens. And the same is true in careers. We have learned through career research and through talking with executives and managers and hiring people like Laura who understand the industry that there is a little bit of magic about identifying like the actual job that you want and matching it to what you want from life. Like that's kind of the magic of coaching, and it's also perspective shifting about, well, I think I could do this, but I want to do it my way is not necessarily the way to approach careers, because it's something that is outside of yourself. You can't convince a manager to just hire you for a job if you're just like, take my resume. I think you'll like me. Like it's not gonna work. So Lori, I was curious when you started to work with Anne, one of the first things that we always do is the vision part of your career. When you thought about the future of your career, did you think specialty? And that's it. That's my darling. That's my baby. That's what I want to be forever.
No. I think when it comes to many aspects of my life, from like what I want to do to all the way to like dipping sauces at a restaurant, I'm horrible at choosing. I want all of them. I'm like, I have three beverages at a time. I have five sauces, like three different kinds of ketchups. Like, I can't decide. And going in, I kind of had that same thing. I'm like, there's so many cool things. I don't know what I'm gonna do. And um, as you were talking, I think one thing I wanted to mention a little bit off track was that I think one of the things besides building connections that I learned to do was that kind of confidence. I didn't think that I, as a pharmacist, I was talking to Anne. She's like, "Well, what do you do at work?" And I was like, "Well, I'll verify scripts. I talk to patients. I coordinate deliveries for patients when they want them, things like that." And she was able to make me see that all of those things in my head, I was like, yeah, every pharmacist does this. This is not special. It's whatever. And through talking to her and reframing my mindset and seeing that, no, these things are very transferable to so many things. And taking them out of that one setting and sort of expanding your scope on them was really motivating, and again kind of boosted my confidence, because I was like, okay, well, yeah, when you say it like that, and Laura helps me with this a lot too. I'll be like, I did this one thing, and she'll read it back to me in a way that I'm like, wow, I did that. That's amazing. And it's really awesome, because when you're doing it day in and day out, you don't think of it like that. And then when it's reframed in a way of how other people might see it, game changer.
It's why I have a coach. I actually have two right now. One's helping me with speaking, the other business, and they see me in a much different light than how I see myself. Because I come to them when I'm like, oh, I'm so lazy. I don't know if I can do this, and they're like, what are you talking about? You've done this and this and this, and I go, oh, yeah, I guess I do those things. I guess I'm good. I think what we're really saying in this series is you need Laura in your life and in your career, because you need a hype girl. You need someone, because I went to a conference. Lori, this is between you and me. Laura's not here right now. I went to a conference with her, and I didn't have to talk. She just would go before me. Like, we would walk down the exhibit hall and she'd be like, you need to meet him. Look at him. Look at this specimen. He is fantastic. He's done this. He's done this. He's done this. She got me easily like 5 opportunities that I never asked for. And I think the lesson here for everyone that doesn't know Laura is there's something nice about meeting connectors, right?
I am a
And
connector.
not everyone needs to be one, but I think, Lori, too, the lesson that you kind of hinted at in your story about how you've shifted your perspective on networking is you now have probably done some connecting for other people. And that's when you have an indispensable career, is when you start getting to know people and you know their problems and you get to know what value they're looking for from other people, and you can introduce them to someone else. And doing and powerful. I did it 3 times today. I had a meeting with 3 totally different people, and each of them, it's on my to-do list tomorrow morning. That's the only reason why I know that is I'm doing email introductions for them. Scratch that. I've already done one. Okay. Less of work. So Lori, what I like about it, your story, and hopefully it's an encouragement to some of our own current clients now, is that you don't have to have a firm destination in mind. Something that I used to say a lot, I think a year ago, Laura, to everyone was journey before destination. And I ripped that straight from Brandon Sanderson, who's a fiction author. He's amazing. And the saying is true for careers. You have no idea where you're going to end up. Surprise is out, Lori. You are not actually technically in true specialty care anymore, right? But you didn't know that you would be here as a next step at your previous specialty job.
Right. And I think part of when I was building those connections, whether it was during my coaching time or after, um, and not knowing my destination, it was really helpful to talk to everybody and the people that I met because I was able to get little kind of nibbles of knowledge from them of like, oh, they mentioned this. Maybe I would really like that. Or like they do this and I kind of hate that. And I know I don't want to do that. So with every conversation, it's so helpful to hear things and learn about things that people are doing that I can kind of apply to myself. And in the beginning, I was really nervous too, and I wouldn't do it. But I do it now is I say, is there anyone that I know that would be helpful for you to connect with? And people were doing that to me, and um, it was so invaluable. It was so invaluable because I would say, actually, a lot of things, times they would say, hey, check out my LinkedIn, see if there's anyone you want to be connected with, and I can make that connection for you. And they would. And that alone, it made me realize like I can help too. I'd always be like, how can I help this person? Like I have nothing to give. And even just that little tidbit can be so helpful for someone. So that was helpful too in the journey of kind of learning what I like, what I don't like, and then being able to give back in that way that, and maybe it's not today, maybe it's not tomorrow, but having a person know that I'm there and happy to help and they would do the same for me has been invaluable.
And it comes down to a philosophy that we teach in our program. And it's all about giving value first. When you can help someone out first, networking, it doesn't become sleazy. It doesn't become grimy or feeling like you're taking up people's time. It feels like you're a pharmacist. You're helping other people. And there's a strategy on how to do that right, but more on that on the inside of our program. So going back though to your career path, Lori. So you were at home infusion. You got into specialty after our program, but now you've used that experience to now get into the job that you're at now. So it's the big reveal. Curtains are being expanded behind me. So what is the job that you have now?
So now I am at a technology company and doing something I didn't have a lot of experience with before, which maybe I did like. I didn't have to do anything with billing before. And now I'm doing a lot of prior authorizations and learning a lot about the payer world and sort of the life cycle of kind of a drug claim as it goes from a pharmacy and then back to the patient again. And there are lots of parts that I didn't know about and was able to learn, but with each of those things, I really feel like I'm able to sort of draw on my experiences and then bring them into that. And really, it was, again, it was pretty different than what I was doing, but I think it was networking and being open and having different conversations that got me to where I am in this job today.
So I have a question. Did you re-sign up for our program to make that transition?
Definitely not.
No, you didn't.
No, I feel like you wish that I did. No, I'm kidding. No, I
No,
didn't
well,
because I was
I
able
mean,
to use everything that I learned. Like that's not going away from me. Like I held on to that
yeah.
very tightly and am able to use it and be better at it. The building connections, all of that, that's invaluable to me. I really do use that, like Laura kind of mentioned, almost every day. And that's mine forever.
So this is an important point I want to hit home. We are not your dependence secret sauce for a happy career. We teach people how to become indispensable, meaning your next job, it may be amazing and it could be awesome, but it's probably not your last one. You're probably going to be led more by your curiosity, and you're going to find new opportunities that you naturally just want to learn more about, and new opportunities get presented to you. Laura, and myself, we were kind of not arguing, but like going back and forth about how Lori's job right now is kind of in specialty, kind of not, kind of related, kind of not. And we ultimately landed on the fact it doesn't matter. That's the cool thing about pharmacy careers, is that when you are driven by your natural curiosity, the things that make who you are, you could say your positive psychology, you're naturally driven to just want to learn, and new opportunities start pressing up everywhere. And so I see things like Brianna asked it. I believe it's Brianna. I hope so. She asked this question about, she's been in retail for just over a year. Do I have an opportunity versus someone who compared yourself to 5 years? You know what, Brianna, don't compare yourself. There's absolutely no point in doing so, because your journey won't be someone else's, and you don't need to compare yourself to a horizon that you will never have. I mean, you may be 5 years more experienced, but that's not going to mean anything. It's all about positioning. It's all about that confidence and talking to the right people to transition into a company. So, and I see some recommendations here for start networking. LinkedIn. Yeah. Yeah, you got to be on LinkedIn. And I see this comment is from YouTube. So hop
I
on
would
over.
I would argue for newer graduates who might be watching this as well, you are well positioned because you are up to date on those specialty medications. So your hook could be, hey, I'm a recent grad. I do have a year of working experience, but I have up to date in my noggin all the competencies of what's going on in specialty pharmacy. And there's a couple of questions about networking. I will always talk about professional associations forever and ever. And for example, the AMCP managed care, you could go on there and do a lot of CE about specialty medications and then walk into an interview and be like, hey, I've got a year of experience, but here's what I know about the specialty landscape and the FDA pipeline of new specialty drugs, and people would be blown away.
Yeah. It isn't as hard as probably how you feel it is. Lori, what I really appreciate about you coming on here and talking is you know, you even had a moment of like clarity about like, hey, we're talking about specialty and I'm kind of in it, kind of not. And that's, I think, the magic really of our program. It wasn't your forever career, you know, and I know, you know, I don't want to speak for your current company now, but I know that whether you get promoted or you transition out, something amazing is going to happen next, because you are driven, you're curious, you're engaged with your work, you love what you do, and every day it's like a new learning opportunity, and that's exciting. Would you say that that is how you feel?
Yes, and thank you for saying those things. But it's definitely how I feel, and I don't know. Every time I get to talk to someone new, like you said, I see it as an opportunity to, what am I gonna learn from them? And I think that's awesome. That's not. I used to be very anxious about these networking opportunities and talking to people and things like that, and now I really actually look forward to it.
And I'm going to jump in and brag on Lori a little bit, which is she's been offered opportunities that weren't the right fit for her as well. So again, no disrespect to your current position, but when you're in a growth mindset, you're kind of always looking for new opportunities and investigating that. And you've actually had to have a silent, little breakup with some people. Like, I'm sorry, it's not me, it's you. This isn't working out.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Again, when I
We're
was
really
looking for a
cool.
job, the first kind of time around, that seemed impossible. So
Mhm.
follow your dreams, kids.
Follow your dreams, and you too can be a disappointment to your parents. You know what? I just had an odd thought, Lori. I wonder how cool it would be for us as a company to like brag about the number of job offers rejected by our clients. Like maybe we should tally that. I don't know, but that's kind of cool.
It is kind of cool. And it's like kind of an ego boost, like, thanks, but no. And respectfully, and like maybe in the future this might work out, but like it's been nice. And like I said, never thought it would happen. And then it does happen. You're like, oh, okay, I do got it. And then, yeah, I recommend it.
Awesome. So as we wrap up today, any final thoughts, Lori, Laura, about specialty, getting into it, maybe some barriers that people perceive they have? And if you have any questions in the chat, now is the time to ask that question.
Yeah, I like a lot of the networking questions. Of course, state associations, they usually have local meetings. Every state has one or two. Every state probably has a local meeting. I also highly recommend straight out of Chicago, Pharmacists Women on LinkedIn and Facebook. Lori and I are both a member of that, and they have live programs here in Chicagoland, but also monthly virtual networking, which has, I should get some data on this, has definitely resulted in multiple jobs along the last couple of years. So that's really cool. I will say, yes,
Can I
Alex.
interject?
Yeah.
If you're a client currently with us, be sure to look out for the invite, because I think next week we're doing our second networking event. So be sure to join.
I can't even take a deep enough breath to talk about this one. Yes, Happy Farm D. If you are a Happy Farm D alumni, we are having a virtual networking event, because that is how important we think networking is. Lori was at our first one. I was there. Alex, you were too. We had a good group.
We did.
One other thing I'm going to say about specialty that's encouraging is that it is becoming more remotely positioned. So it used to be tied around that the mail order dispensing side was right across the building from you. And now I think they're seeing the benefit in COVID of remote work being possible. So I think it again, 5-10 years ago, it used to be that you had to geographically be located to a specialty dispensing center. And now you can actually have full-time remote work as that option available to you.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about that with you, Lori. We're both, your specialty job and your current job, remote?
No, my current job is remote. I get to go places and work from there. I went to go visit my grandparents in Las Vegas, worked from there, had dinner at grandma's. It was awesome. So that was another huge thing for me too. It was having kind of that flexibility that I didn't have before, which was what I needed at this time for me.
I think the final note, unless Laura, you have another comment. I know you love sharing.
I mean, I'll just stop right here because, yeah, I got a lot. Hey, everyone, find me on LinkedIn. I would be happy to connect and answer questions that you might have from tonight's program.
Awesome. I guess one final comment and then an invitation to get you into specialty. And the final comment is just more, I guess, a reflection on Lori's story, which is that specialty is great. If you love patient care, it's a great avenue for you to do more of that kind of work. But it is a really great vertical opportunity. And so you can use specialty, gain experience and industry knowledge to then transition into something else. And it could be pharma related, it could be tech related, it could be insurance related, it could be a lot of different things. And honestly, the same is true for a lot of different industries within pharmacy. The cool thing, I think it's cool about working in what we do, is we get to be specialists in helping people design the career that they want. And often it is landing in people in places that they never anticipated. A cool reflection. maybe you're here in this webinar because I have so many thoughts that are jumbling my mind, but I got to go to a conference with Laura and I got to meet, I believe, 4 different professors at different universities that were clients of ours. And these were people that I think most of them didn't have a residency, certifications, all that nonsense. And they do work that they love and they make a difference in the world. How stinking cool is that? And that's why I would love to invite you into our specialty group. So if you're serious about wanting to move into specialty pharmacy, if you know that you're worth the investment, then I want you to book a call with one of our career advisors. They are our specialists that work with people and tell you more about how you can be accepted into this specialty coaching group. This is a group that meets every other week for 3 months. And if you feel like you can do it on your own and you're not in a hurry to make a change, there's some great resources in this webinar. They can definitely help you and get started. But if you want to get there faster with far less stress, then invest in yourself and sign up for this coaching group. I think you deserve it. And to do that, I'm going to put a banner up here. Let me see. If you go to thehappypharmd.com/SP31, there's no cost to do this, no investment other than your time. And you'll be either talking to Eric or Tamar, who are just absolutely lovely. Laura will vouch for them. They are some of the coolest people on this planet. They get to work with us. Yes. And I love them dearly. I play Dungeons and Dragons sometimes with Eric, so we're good friends. And they'll get you set up and get you started on that path towards specialty. And honestly, if you also are wondering, maybe specialty, but maybe not, I don't know, they will help you as well. We don't just help people get into specialty. We get into all 32 different career paths we've helped people get into. And outside of pharmacy as well. Although 95% of the people we work with stick in pharmacy. And so with that, I think we'll end tonight's webinar. Feel free to reach out to us. Happy to answer questions. And we're excited to help you get into specialty or wherever your indispensable career will take you next. Have a great night, everyone.